Hey guys, welcome back to Cool Bike Projects. In today's episode, we're going to teach you how to replace broken spokes on a back wheel. So what we have here is a small size mountain bike that's been jumped off a curb or two. Not only does it have one or two broken spokes on the back, but even the front wheel is a little bit jelly. So kind of a 2-for-1 special. We'll not only teach you how to replace the spokes, but we'll teach you how to retention the wheel. Let's get started. Okay, starting off with the basics. Let's drop the gears down to the smallest cog. And then using the quick release, we'll open up the lever here, back off the nut just a little bit, and drop the wheel down inside the frame. Okay, we'll do the same thing on the front here. Just loosen up the quick release a couple turns and pop it out of the frame. Then for the back wheel here, I can see the one spoke just hanging down. And it appears as though this had such a strong impact that it actually pulled the nipple of the spoke right through the rim itself. So hopefully there's been no damage there where we can get that replaced. Okay, first thing here, I'm going to go ahead and take off the quick release. Next, I'm going to use a chain whip and a cassette tool to take off this cassette. This is the tool that's needed here for a basic Shimano compatible cassette. Goes right there inside of the hollow axle and rests inside. And then my chain whip here wraps around the cassette to hold it in place while I turn backwards with an open end wrench. Now, depending on how hard this has been installed, I can do this on top of the table or on the ground. And again, that chain whip just keeps the cassette from rolling backwards. Now, just so I don't lose stuff here, I'm going to pull the whole thing off with the tool in place. I'm going to set this down over here in the corner, and I'll leave that tool right there just so I have everything I need. Now, on this side here, the spoke that broke was actually not on the drive side. It was on the rotor side. But I always start by taking off the cassette either way because you need to have enough space for the spoke to go pass through. Okay. Now, I just happen to have a Torx number, in this case I think it's a 20 or 25, and a little 1/4-inch drive that I'm going to use to back off the screws here. Okay, I'll set this rotor over here with the bolts. Make sure you don't lose those little guys. Okay, now something I like to do when I'm replacing spokes is take a good look to see where the wear and tear is on these. Sometimes you'll have markings that let you know that the other spokes have been fatigued. And I can see where the chain has come off at least once here and rubbed between the cassette and the actual spokes. The broken side, though, is over on here. There's no markings, but I'm thinking pretty sure that what happened was there was a strong impact causing this to pull super hard on the spoke, ripping the nipple right out from the back side. So, because I need to get to the nipple area, I'm going to go and get the tire off of here and let the air out. Got my little trusty tire lever here. We'll take off just one side at a time here to do this. Push the valve stem up and through the hole. Okay, and I can actually hear the loose nipple rolling around inside of here. And that is what is left of it on the inside. Okay, here's the rim strip. This is what protects the inside of your tube from getting punctured on the back side of the nipples. I'll hang this over here on the bike for now. And then looking at my broken spoke, we are simply going to uncross this. It's a 3-cross pattern here. There it is. And I'm going to push it here towards the camera. Hopefully you can see that. I'm just going to push it through the back side. But first, I'm going to take off what's left of that nipple. All right. So now you might be wondering, well, how many spoke sizes are there? Like, what is there a standard length? And the way you can tell is simply by using a millimeter tool. In this case, this is kind of a generic Park tool measuring tool. This will show you bearing sizes with the holes. And if I use the back end of the spoke, I can actually connect it right there and show the actual length of the spoke. And if I pull it all the way down here semi-straight, it shows around 261 or 262 millimeters. Now, if you get this out, any bike shop can measure this for you. A common, spoke gauge here is 14 or 15 gauge. This is a 15 gauge spoke. And if you go down there with your original spoke, if it's not broken off all the way, they can measure it and get an exact replacement for you. A standard stainless steel spoke with a nipple is around $1. Okay, I happen to have 2 replacements here. I'm just going to measure these for good matter. That's pretty close. That's a 260. It's just 1 millimeter short. I have another one here, and I think it's a little bit shorter than that. Oh, 261. This one's perfect. So we're going to go with this one. Okay. See if we can get this to show up a little bit better. So over here on this side is the hole where this is going to go. And if you notice these, they're switching directions. One goes up and over this way. One goes in and out this way. And it's called a 3-cross because it goes in from one, crosses this spoke here, and this spoke here. This one needs to come out this way and up to this hole here. So going through this side over here, we're lucky this is not terribly tight. Pops through. Now it's crossed over here once. It's going to go right around here. And we've got 1 cross, 2 cross, 3 cross, and it's going under just like this last one. So now I'm going to insert this brass nipple through the hole here. And kind of like a bolt, it's just going to sit there and turn and snug up right there. Okay. Now, I was careful to check that the hole is not actually gone all the way through. Sometimes you can actually have a brass nipple where it breaks and it pulls all the way through the aluminum rim, but that's typically under a very hard impact where it's broken through, and you'd actually see more damage than that on the rim itself. Now, I'm not going to attempt to try and tighten this up now, and in fact, I'm going to leave some spoke threads exposed so that when I put it on the truing stand, I can see which one went where. Okay. Everything else looks good though. There's no other broken spokes. Even though there is some scratching here on some of these others, none of it is deep enough that I'm concerned about replacing those. This is my trusty old Park truing stand. This is a TS2. If you're interested in getting into wheel truing, you can find a lot of these on eBay, going for around 125 bucks, maybe 100 bucks. They will last a lifetime if you treat them well. I'm going to show you a couple different angles of this, but first of all, I'm going to give this kind of a spin with the caliper spread pretty wide, just so we can see just how bad this bend is. Probably can't see here too much, but if you look back over here, you can see how much of a wobble we have. And what I'm going to attempt to do is tighten up just the one spoke we've replaced, just enough to put some tension on it. So here it is, because I can see the thread sticking out. All right, so when I spin this, you'll see that the wheel is going back and forth almost a ½ inch, and that there's two particularly tight places where the bend is. But rather than trying to just tighten spokes or loosen spokes, I'm going to try find kind of a happy medium here, where the bend is the worst. And the way truing a wheel works is, if you were to look at this, upside up and tighten it down, we're going to reverse this, where when I tighten it, I'm going counterclockwise. And so I'm going to basically begin to tighten just in small half turns to try and get some tension to pull from one side to the other. Here you can see it comes closer to this side right here. There it's fairly close. And here it starts to pull away. I'm going to try and pull this direction here to kind of close that gap a little bit. And I almost always work in pairs of 3s whenever I adjust the wheel. I'm tightening just the ones on the left, just these 3 spokes, to try and make some adjustment there. And here I have this huge bend over here again. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this on a little bit on this side again on the left. Okay. Over here now, it's getting really close to here, so I'm going to begin to tighten just a little bit over here on the right side. Again, big pull over here to the right. Now, what I'd start to say is that when things get too tight on one side, rather than over-tightening it, go ahead and try loosening up the other side just a couple turns to see if that gives it enough release to pull it back that way. And here I can actually see where the bend in the wheel is vertically going up. The actual wheel has been bent in a little bit and is actually cockeyed both sides of the wheel over here to a little bit to this side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and back the camera up, and I'm going to start to loosen up all of the spokes, just a half turn, to give me some release in the tension, and then begin the fine-tuning process of pulling it left and right again. Something I should have mentioned at the beginning is that it's always good to give a quick stress test by pulling your 2 parallel spokes together, which gives you a pretty good idea as to which spokes are already tight and which ones are already kind of spaghetti. The ones that are spaghetti is when there's been an impact and it's loosened the spokes. When it's overly tight, it's trying to compensate for that on the other side. So because I have probably 2/3 of the spokes pretty tight and just some that are loose, I'm going to go ahead and start here at the valve stem hole, and I'm going to loosen up all the spokes just a half turn. Oops. Now if I feel that one's already too loose, I'll keep it where it is. Okay, and we are back to this side here. Again, I'm going to go through here and just give a little bit of a last stress test on here. The wheel is much, much looser even with just half of a turn done there. And it will also make it a lot easier for me to begin to pull the spokes one way or the other. Again, I'm just working my way in pairs. Now I'm using pairs of about 5 spokes on just one side to move that small gap, whatever that is. I'm trying to close the gap down closer and closer, but never just by 1 or 2 spokes, almost always in pairs of 3 or 5. Now, if you look closely here at the gap on this side, you can definitely tell there's a bit of a flare and what we call a hop in the wheel where it had the impact. But the biggest goal, besides going left and right, is to try and get similar tension going all the way through the wheel. Closing the caliper a little bit. And everywhere it rubs on this side, I'm going to attempt to pull the wheel back over this way a little bit. So right there, we'll pull over on this side just a little bit. We're going to go and move down to one more thing here to check. And this is just a way of kind of checking the hop. So if you can see the caliper down here, it has a notch down below. And I have this underneath the rim on purpose so we can see just how bad that notch is. That rubbing right there is the actual wheel coming down a little bit. So a perfectly true wheel is not just one that goes, straight down the center here, or that has good tension, but is one that is actually perfectly round. If you have even tension, if it's round, you're going to have a wheel that's going to last a long, long time. For now, we're still working on trying to get this straight, so I'll go through a couple more steps, and then we'll come back with our actual special tool that measures the tension on the spokes. Now, where it has the hop dropping down, I'm going to actually turn all of these spokes about the same amount, because I'm not trying to pull them left and right anymore. I'm trying to pull them up, to pull the rim up a little bit. When you have a hard ding where it's actually been pushed forward and up, if it's something really short, like over just 4 spokes, there's not a lot you can do to try and get that wheel to come back down round. But if it's overly tight, you could certainly loosen up some of those spokes. Don't know if you can see that, but the wheel has come down just a little bit. And it's just going 1, 2, 3 spokes. So I'm going to tighten up just those 3, about a quarter turn each. Maybe just a little bit more. Okay. Not perfect, but not bad. This is way truer than it was before. And for our final check, we're going to use the tensionometer so you can see what that looks like. All right, this is my special tool here from Park Tool. This is a tensionometer. Back in the day, I used to build a couple sets of wheels each year. It wasn't a lot where I felt crazy confident, but it was enough it was worth learning the tools and the process of getting the right tension per spoke. So here on the non-drive side, this is the rotor side of the wheel. If I open this up, you can see this part of the pin moves up. I'm going to hook it on one spoke here and let go of it. And then you can see the reading here of around 22. There we are. Okay. So now as I work my way around here, I'm going to try on just each of these spokes for about halfway across the wheel to see where is my tension. This one's down to around 18. $19, $21. Oh, and look at that. There's one that's still really, really loose. It's clear down to 10 or 11. So even if you have a wheel that is perfectly straight now, appears to have a good round shape to it, and feels like it's got good tension, this tool can really help you figure out which spokes are still loose and which ones are too tight. The drive side is going to be tighter. This is around 25. Not bad. I think we are back to a bike working again. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for watching this episode of Cool Bike Projects. Learning how to replace a spoke and retention a wheel is really just a matter of time and practice. And I'd encourage you to make friends with a good mechanic at a bike shop. When you show them that you're interested in doing things like these kind of projects in your bike, you'd be surprised at how generous they are with their time and their resources. Thanks for watching, and have a great week.